This call is being recorded.
Hi, everyone. This is Renee Rentmeester on the Cooking Without Looking TV show podcast. I'm the creator and executive producer of the TV show Cooking Without Looking, and we've started our new podcast a couple of weeks ago. Today, we are extremely fortunate to have Chef Liz Thompson with us. Liz, how are you today out there in Los Angeles?
I'm great, trying to stay away from the smoke, but all is good. I only want smoke when I'm cooking.
Oh, no. Oh, are you by those fires?
They're relatively close, but just a quick blow of the wind, you never know which way it's going to go, but we're good for today.
Oh, that sounds. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Liz.
Okay, let's see. Quick background how I got into cooking. I was in marketing for years and years and years as a product manager. Always wanted to cook. Way back when, it wasn't a viable career for women. Went to college, still wanted to cook. Went to graduate school, still wanted to cook. Went to cooking school after all that. Then moved out to California. Did an internship with a well-known chef, et cetera, et cetera. Stayed out here, moved out here, sublet my apartment, and I've been here for 24 years. And I started out as a classically trained pastry chef, co-owned a few restaurants here. Then somehow it led me to being a culinary instructor at the bachelor's level for about 4 years, teaching people about, the restaurant industry, how to open up a restaurant, what are the concepts, what do you need to do, training, and then also the cooking end, starting from, pastry 101 all the way up. And about 3.5 years in, that's when I woke up one morning. I was at the Fancy Food Show working for someone as a chef, telling people how to use vanilla beans. And I woke up that morning and I couldn't really see out of my left eye except to see pixelated colors. So that was my introduction to having visual issues, and I thought it was just a floater. My eye doctor said it was a floater, nothing to worry about. And then then it became something to worry about, and I totally reworked my my work, and I'm about as happy as can be today. So I like to report that first.
Tell us what happened after that. How did you change your life around to accommodate for your vision impairment?
Well, in the very beginning, obviously, it was very tough because I was just I was on leave for about a year, and I was just trying to really learn and understand what the impairment that I had was, so that I could figure out what I needed to learn in order to be able to keep doing what I'm doing. And like I said, I didn't really fully understand. And then I got incredible training, who I'll be grateful for forever, for the from the Department of Rehabilitation, and they worked with me probably for a good 6 months. And they showed me all different kinds of tools and tricks on my phone, because with my impairment, it's sort of like my eyes are like a camera, like the aperture on a camera that does not close. So everything is very, very bright for me. I see best at night, like I guess like a vampire, but I cannot read on white. So I cannot pick up a piece of mail or open a book, but I can read in contrast. So I have a fantastic reader, and all it does is it changes the background to everything I look at to black with white, and then I'm able to enlarge it. And we live in such a great day of technology. My computer is the same way. My phone is the same way. You go to the airport, the thing is, big contrast signs, colored backgrounds, and big bright letters. So I can navigate pretty well, but I had to sort of sit back and say, okay, well, I can no longer drive. Living in Los Angeles, that was a challenge in the beginning. I had been commuting to my job about 70 miles a day, so I knew that was out. But also, I didn't really have the skills 100% anymore at that time to go back into a professional kitchen. After about a year's worth of training, I would feel comfortable doing that, but I had to sit back and say, okay, I can't drive. I have years and years and years of both marketing knowledge and cooking knowledge. How can I parlay that into a very viable business that I can, pretty much do at home? So the first thing I did, just because I have a marketing background, is I figured, okay, I need a website. So I had someone help me with a website, which took about 6 months to put together because at that time I was still sort of struggling with learning how to use a new computer and use the new computer in a different way than I was accustomed to. And I wasn't as fast, and I made 1,000 typos a day. And it took me about 6 months, but that was my job. That's what I did every day. I just worked on that, and it kind of kept me focused, and it gave me something to do. Put that up, then joined what's called the Food Consultants Group, which is a national organization for food professionals, and filling out their application literally took me about 3 months because once again, I was still struggling with understanding, how to do things. Initially, me sending a fax meant, 3 hours per fax because I couldn't at first figure out how to read the numbers, how to make sure it went to the right person, because initially I didn't understand that if I had these tools, because at that point no one had said, okay, you just use this apparatus and you could see. So I went around for months and months not being able to read and see, which was a very, very, very difficult time for me. And then Department of Rehabilitation just sort of literally dropped these things in my lap and said, okay, you want to start a business? We'll help you. Put together a business plan that we think is worth our investing in you. So I put together a full blast business plan of how I wanted to be a food and marketing consultant and what my experience was and what I could do. And they gave me a desktop Apple. They gave me a laptop, a Mac laptop. They gave me the apparatus that I could read with. They trained me in my home on the computer for 6 months. They got me the 7-quart KitchenAid. It went on and on and on, and they basically put me back in business. And then I started getting requests to do recipe development. So I was doing a lot of that. But before that, just to sort of preface it, I had to learn in the very beginning. I had to learn, how to work in my own kitchen again, because, opening up the cabinet to the spice store was no longer the same. I couldn't, I have about 100 different spices, and all of a sudden it was a disaster for me. Every time I needed to find something, I would get frustrated. So I would say the first thing I had to learn was an incredible amount of patience that I have never had in my entire life. I'm originally from New York.
What did you do so that you could identify your spices?
Well, at first I tried putting masking tape on them and then taking a big black marker and writing them very large. So that helped, but also still being very disorganized. Eventually, they all just kind of moved around, and then I learned to put the spices that I use all the time on the bottom shelf, and then, either just open them up and smell them or use this fantastic ruby reader that I have. Once again, things take a little longer. So I worked out the spice crisis, and then because white is a difficult color for me, meaning I can go to a restaurant and I can think that there's a white. I did this a couple months ago. I thought there was a white butter dish right next to my plate, and to my chagrin and everybody else's around me, there wasn't. And they saw me put a piece of bread on the table and then pour olive oil on it. And everyone kind of said, oops. I said, oops, I thought there was a plate there. So I had to learn also to be a little kinder to myself. Last week I went to a restaurant and I thought I was putting my fingers in the chips that went with the dip. Realized I stuck my 2 fingers in the dip. Once again, I just learned to sort of step back and say, you know what, it is what it is. Nobody died, and oh well. And back to the kitchen. So I had someone also through Department of Rehabilitation, in terms of, I guess they call them people that come into your house and help you do independent living. So right. I said, this is what I'm used to doing in the kitchen, but I'm really having trouble with white and silver. What do I do? So she went ahead and ordered me a black cutting board, which you can get at Target, a set of colored knives, which made it easier. Cuisinart makes those knives. Things like that. Oh, and measuring cups, white measuring cups. Even though, I know the size just as a professional, I think it was Maxi Aids. I got a set of black measuring cups, and the measurements are written in bright green and very large. So there's no way that I'm going to screw up making a pot of coffee anymore and just sort of guessing.
Now, you made a good point before we got on here. You know, you made the point about being called legally blind versus visually impaired. Could you describe that for our audience?
Sure. So on paper, I am legally blind because I can't see things in the normal, in the normal fashion. Pair of glasses doesn't do it. Once again, I have, let's see, I also lost my peripheral vision, which means I can't see to the side of me, and on certain areas of my eyes, thankfully they're both different. There are certain things that I don't see, and when I'm outside and it's bright, it's almost like I have a photographic. I don't quite know how to describe it. It's like a photographic condition where I'm looking at the plants, and then the plants that I've just looked at, I'll keep walking and I'll see them in front of me again. So the light really, really plays tricks on my eyes, but I've learned to sort of, look to the left to see the right. But I would not take credit for what I would call legally blind, because I can still function on my own pretty damn well. I travel all the time by myself. I go to the airports by myself. I guess, to give myself credit, I would say I am, extremely high functioning. And once again, I've managed to, create a business where I'm making twice as much money, more than twice as much money when I had to leave my job. So my point is go ahead.
No, go on.
So I would say my point to all of you, I should really address you, the listeners, not Renee. No matter, what your condition is, when you're trying to figure out, okay, holy crap, what do I do for work now? I've done XYZ for 20 years and that's what I know. You need to sort of sit back and really, really, really think about where your talents are and how you can use them, and how you have to just sort of, rework being able to use them. But, I tell people, just because, you lose part of your sight or all of your sight, that doesn't make you stupid. That makes you smarter, because you have to look at yourself a lot more closer and say, where do my real true talents lie? Maybe you go off into a totally different career that's more service oriented, but whatever it is, look at what you really enjoy doing and what your talents are, because there's nothing out there that can't, that can stop you if you really, if you can get past all of the insecurities of not being able to do things as well as other people, like, walking into the movies, and because of the light for me, until the light adjusts, I have to sometimes either use a flashlight or hold onto the chairs to make sure that there's not a step in front of me. Then I'm going to fall down just getting my movie, just getting to my seat until my eyes can somehow, do their thing, and then I'm fine.
Sure. Well, you know what? Describe to us how you develop a recipe. I think that's fascinating.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just losing out on all the, missing out on all the fun stuff. It's just a matter of, I don't know, learning, and I say learning spices and different vegetables, and the recipe I put together applies to probably every single type of vegetable out there. And the important thing to know is that when you're cooking vegetables, if you're cooking different vegetables, they have to be very, very similar in terms of their, I'd say their thickness, their tenderness, so that they cook at the same time. Like if you want to do, you do roasted vegetables, what you're going to do is you're going to use potatoes, you're going to use carrots, you're going to use turnips, you're going to use vegetables that are very, very similar in texture. You would never want to roast Brussels sprouts with mushrooms, because by the time the Brussels sprouts are done, the mushrooms are burnt. So you would want to saute your lighter vegetables, like, mushrooms, zucchini, ahead of time, and cook roast your other vegetables in the oven separately, and then combine them. But do you want me to explain my recipe? Or we're not there yet?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, because I cook very, very, I live alone, and I cook very, very simply for my stuff, but I live in California, and we have, the best produce. So pretty much every night I'll just grab like Brussels sprouts I love Brussels sprouts. So I'm sure, that's the it vegetable, but it's just a great vegetable, and it's so easy to cook. And you go to the store, and sometimes they're giant. They're, they're the size of like half a tennis ball, or they're small. So if they're small, you don't have to cut them. If they're large, I usually quarter them, throw them in a bowl, just toss them with olive oil, some sea salt, some cumin, and I also like to, this is the recipe I posted, I also like to just thinly slice either salami or prosciutto because that gives it a lot of flavor and it gives it like an extra kind of crunch. And then I roast them at 425 for about, roughly a half an hour. So that's, if I wanted to, I would throw in, say, butternut squash, once again, turnips, any kind of a hard root vegetable. Otherwise, I'll do something simple. I'll take, zucchinis and mushrooms and tomatoes and lighter vegetables with a quicker cooking time. Same thing. Toss it with olive oil. Maybe I'll add some curry. Maybe I'll add in some. What I like to use is there's a pomegranate molasses, and it's usually found in Armenian markets. And it's very cheap. It's about, $3 a bottle. You'll find something very similar if you go to all the fancy olive oil stores, and you could get maybe a cranberry balsamic aged, and you'll pay about $20 for it. But go to the Armenian ethnic markets and look for a pomegranate molasses. I use that all the time. But I grab what I have and I just toss it and throw it together. But I'm happy to share, recipes, and anybody out there, if my email address is made available, I'm happy to just answer any cooking question, any cooking challenge, how to organize your kitchen better, which I still haven't figured out. Put things, put
What's
things.
The biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge for me is my spice cabinet. I still have not, figured out how to organize that. But once again, I'm not an organized person. But yeah, if you just keep like things with like things, like I use olives with just about everything. And if I keep the olives in my refrigerator next to the garlic, then I'm good to go. Because there are certain things that I grab every single day that I cook with. And it's mostly olive oil, olives, and garlic. Those are my staples. And a really good sea salt.
If you'd like to share your recipe with us now, that would be great.
Oh, okay. I kind of very quickly ran through it. So my recipe is Brussels sprouts, and where I live, they are big, so I quarter them. I throw them in a bowl, sprinkle maybe 2 tablespoons of olive oil on it, salt, pepper. I love to use sea salt, but if you're going to be adding, in my recipe, I apologize, I added sliced prosciutto, or you could use sliced salami. And if you're using prosciutto is very salty, so you don't need you wouldn't need to add the salt. And then I just toss that together. Maybe put in a little, maybe a tad of cumin, some chopped garlic. Toss that up, and then just put it in a 425 oven for about a half an hour. And if you want to get a little bit more creative, which makes it a little bit better, I love basil as well. So you can just take a handful of basil, throw it in a food processor with maybe 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and maybe a pinch of, say, kosher salt if you don't have sea salt, and process that up, and then toss that in there as well. But if you're not comfortable using a food processor because of the blade, you can just take a handful of basil, throw it in a bowl, sprinkle some olive oil, a little bit of salt, pepper, toss that with your hands, and then throw that in the bowl and just toss it in with the Brussels sprouts and either your prosciutto and salami. So it's real simple, it doesn't take more than 5 minutes, and then throw it in the oven.
Oh, sounds wonderful. We're going to be putting that up on our Facebook page, the Cooking Without Looking page, and people will be able to see that and enjoy it on Monday.
Oh, good. And if anybody needs to find out where to purchase some of the kitchen items that I use, I'm happy to share that as well.
Sure, that's great. Now, what has been your biggest challenge to get over in general, and how have your family helped you out?
Let's see. My biggest challenge was in the very beginning. I'm a very busy person. I've always done consulting and worked full time, and all of a sudden I was literally stopped in my tracks, and didn't really, like I said in the very beginning, didn't know what to do, didn't really understand. I unfortunately was sent home from the hospital after 4 days with no one to talk to, with no instructions on anything, with not knowing or understanding that when I walked in my front door, I was not going to be able to pick up a piece of mail. Nobody said, hey, we have these devices for you. I remember going to Office Depot and buying every single magnifying glass that they had out on the shelves and testing it because once again, I was very unfortunately and disappointingly sent home with zero tools. And I think that that's not something that happens very often. And it was heartbreaking for someone like me who's just so independent and so involved. And like I said, I was just stopped in my tracks. And then I went back for a low vision. I forced my way in. I was told I had a 3-month wait, and I got home that day and I called and I said, I can't wait 3 months for someone to tell me, hey, there's all this great technology out there and you can start your life again. And they wanted me to wait 3 months. So unfortunately, I had to be that person that screamed, bloody murder, to really get what I wanted. But another frustrating thing for me is every time I would go for my visual fields, now I'm totally fine with it. But in the very beginning, each one of those tests was incredibly frightening to me because it kept saying to me, your vision will never be the same. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do that. And every time I would go to the eye specialist, I'm not going to name the hospital, very well known, I would go up to the desk and I'd say, I'm here for my visual field. And I would be handed a clipboard. And I'm sure everyone who's listening can relate to this. I would be handed the clipboard and I would be asked to fill everything out. And the first couple times I had a really hard time with not just exploding. And I would look at the person in front of me, and I said this several times. I had to do this, I think, the first 3 or 4 visits. And I said, tell me something. I said, why am I here? I said, I'm here because I have vision issues. So you're asking me to fill out a form. And if I could fill this out, I wouldn't be here. And I was very condescending. And I'm sort of embarrassed now about how I reacted, but at the same point, there was absolutely no sensitivity to the people that worked in the office. And by the 4th time, when it happened again, I said, look, I apologize. And I know I sound like a monster right now, but this is where I was at mentally. I said, I'm going to go in the middle of the room here. And I know that half the people in here are blind. And I'm going to ask everyone in here to raise their hand, who could fill out the form that they were handed without it being a situation of just pure humiliation. And
it sounds a little ironic.
Right, and it is. It makes no sense. And I said, could you please do me a favor? Could you put a red flag by my name so the next time I check in, the red flag means, no, this person cannot fill out the form. Please do not ask her. And then I had to have an eye procedure, and I remember being handed another stack of paper. It was maybe 5 or 6 pages that I was supposed to read and sign. And I was in an office one-on-one, they do the billing, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't read this. Can you read it to me? And then I'm happy to sign it. And she said, no. And I said, well, what do you mean no? I said, I'm here because I can't see very well and I can't read this. I can't sign anything without reading it. And she said, well, I'm really sorry. I can't do that. You could take it home. You can read it. And if there's anything that is a red flag to you, then call us. So I said, you're asking me to sign something without reading it. And I said, fine. So then when I went in for the procedure, I bought the same piece of paper back and I wrote on the paper, I was forced to sign this before reading it. So if there's if any issues come up during the procedure, I'm not liable. So it took me a while to get my edge to go away. And it eventually did. The more I learned that I could really start my life again and that everything was going to be fine. And now today, like I said, I'm working on 2 projects of a lifetime, and it's almost like I had to sell my soul to the devil. My family's great. My kids are great. And that's
sort of how.
What's that?
You have to believe in yourself.
That's exactly it. And I had to really sit down and convince myself, you can do this. You can do this. Your family knows you can do this. Your friends and family are expecting nothing less than for you to do even greater things. And because of that support, that's where I'm sitting today. And I'm humbled by it, and I'm also proud of myself. And I don't really talk about it very often, but I'm talking for the first time to the right audience because I was never able to find a support group to go to. So everybody listening is my support group.
Well, wonderful. Liz, tell us how people can reach out to you.
Oh, through my email address. Can you post that?
I will post it, but tell everyone now who are listening.
Oh, sure. Okay. It's my name, and it's Liz Thompson Marketing at iCloud.com. Actually,
Okay.
no, I'm gonna do a Gmail. I'm sorry. LizThompson marketing@gmail.com.
Okay, great. And do you want to leave us with a phone number or anything?
Sure. Why not? I don't think I'll be bombarded by phone calls. Sure. 323-646-4892. And I'm truly happy to share any kitchen tips on how to get back in the kitchen, or just on a total support level. I mean, we all have bad days.
That's right. We're all here to support each other.
Right, and that's what that's what it's all about. Knowing that you can get through it, and if you need to call someone because you are having a bad day, just knowing that someone is there to say, hey, you know what? I just don't know if I could, look for the same thing in my house again for the 50th time this week, and that's the reality. But I've always been like that. So there you go. Some things never change.
That's right. Liz, thank you so much for being here with us today. Chef Liz Thompson in Los Angeles, California. This is Renee Rentmeester. I'm the creator and executive producer of the Cooking Without Looking TV show. And our mission is to change the way we see blindness. We're at www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. And if you would like to sponsor one of our shows, you can click on the link, on the PayPal link, and we accept anything. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.